Hey everybody, today we're going to be working on something new. And no, it's not a 2017 Ford Transit. It's a 2019 Ford E-350 Cutaway. I know this is probably going to be one of my least popular videos because not a whole lot of people got these things. But it does have the 6R140 transmission in it, which is common in the F-250 and F-350 and other vehicles. So today we're servicing the transmission. So maybe you want to come along. Come on along, let's get this done. Alright, plain and simple, you got to get the vehicle up in the air and safely as possible, which on this lift feels super sketchy. It's a lot of vehicle up on a two-post, but it is rated for the weight, they said. Now on the trucks, you'll have a drain pan either right there or right there. I can't remember. I think it's like under the magnet. And on the vans, they were nice enough to not give us one of those. So thanks, Ford. Appreciate that. You'll see my Christmas card in the mail. It might stink. So you got to drain it the old-fashioned way without a drain plug. So what we're going to do is we're going to loosen and take out these back ones, but we're going to leave one in the back here. But the rest of these are only going to get loosened, and we're going to hope the pan dips that way. We're going to hope that most of it drains from there, but a very wide drain pan is going to be needed here. Okay, so let's get started. I'm wearing a nice shirt today, and it's going to really piss me off if I mess this one up. So let's get to it. I say I'm wearing a nice shirt. I'm wearing one of my favorite Carhartt work shirts. So I really didn't plan the day out very well. Alright, there we go. We're starting to go already. Alright, that's good right there. We're just going to let it do its thing there for a bit. I'm not going to hang out there because, you know, showers are not cool with transmission fluid, especially hot transmission fluid. Which, by the way, this really should be warm. You should take your ride around the block a few times, get it nice and warm. That way it breaks loose any sediments that have settled on the pan overnight, especially in the winter. They really settle out in the winter. So go take it for a nice long drive. Get the transmission up to operating temperature before you go to do this. It helps get all of the contaminants out as much as possible. So we're just gonna let it do its thing here for a bit. Oh, that's a lot of fluid. Starting to slow down. Speed it up a little bit. Loosen these up a bit more. Alright, so it's down to a trickle at this point. So we're going to take all but 4 out right now, just one in each corner. Before muscle failure sits in, take out your other two. And that's how you do it without taking a training fluid bath. So you want to take a good look at your gasket, make sure it's not broke, make sure you don't see any tears. They can tear, but they usually don't. These are usually pretty good. Go through it. They always have a point like that. I think it's because they can bend over in packaging or something. I don't know, but that's normal. Never seen one without it. Well, I think I've replaced a new one, and I don't think it came all floppy dick like that, but they are like this from the factory, and they won't leak on you. It feels like there's a deliberate, break in the metal that's inside there. Set that guy aside. We're going to continue to let the transmission drain and drip. It will do that for a while. And honestly, these things can literally drip for days. I mean, I've had one with a pan off because I was waiting on a valve body, and it sat in here over a 3-day weekend. And I came in and the thing was still steadily dripping 3 days later. So don't wait for it to stop dripping, but let it completely drain out. Now it'll really keep doing it after we take that filter off. But here's a look at the pan before it got washed out. That looks out frigging standing. This truck has 94,000 miles on it. It is an ambulance, so it does tend to get driven hard. The magnet looks very clean. I'll show you more over at the parts washer, but that's how a transmission is supposed to look. The 6R180 does not look like that when you take it apart when it's behind the 3.7 or the 3.5. But that's how your fluid should look after 90,000 miles. Set that out of the way over in the parts washer, and we'll get this filter off. I believe on this one there's 1, 2, and then, yeah, third bolt in the back. And don't worry, we're going to give you the torque specs on those. There's a long one on the driver's side. Passenger side, and I want to say the back one's a short one. Nope, they're all long ones. I don't know what transmission I'm thinking of. Oh, that's right. The back one is the longer one of the two. The driver's side and passenger side are the same length. The back one's the longer one. That one gets the most. Make less of a mess on the floor. And just grab this guy, lean with it, rock with it. I really need to get some Scotch-Brite mat in there so I can stop getting spattered. One of the most important things to check on your filter here, so you guys get a good view of that, is that O-ring came out and it's not up there. Now on these, it's not near the problem because it's an actual like real O-ring. On other filters, they tend to be like a big thick rubber gasket basically, and it's common for them to come off the filter and say stuck up in the bore up there, and they'll double stack them when you put your new filter on if you don't check. It'll cause the case to crack and suck air and contaminated fluid and screw up the transmission. Any tranny rebuild shop you go to, they're going to tell you that's the first thing that they look for is double stacked elements. They sometimes make a game like, how many do you think's in this one? And they'll pull 3 or 4 out of the damn thing. So take you a nice lint-free cloth, get up there in the bore, and clean it out. That way our new filter, our new O-ring seals good. Let that guy drain out. We're going to let this guy drain out. Let's go clean up again. That looks like a pretty decent view for you. As you can see here, and get some better light. Oh crap, you're falling over. Stick with me, folks. Okay, that looks like a pretty good view. As you can see on that magnet, there's just not a lot of metal oatmeal. Not much at all. See, when I hit it, not a lot's going to come off. And the 6R140, it's pretty easy to remember because it only has one magnet, and it goes right there on that guy. So clean that guy off real good. Wipe it off with a paper towel before it goes back in. And we're just getting that thin film of clutch material and metal shavings off. As you can see on this pan, there's just not a lot of cleanup. This transmission is going to live a nice, long, happy life if it keeps getting treated the way it is. As I can tell you, this is not what the 6R180s or 6R80s look like when you do a transmission fluid change at 60,000 miles. This one's honestly overdue, and it's been overdue. And it looks outstanding. Alright, so we've got our new filter here. Cleaned up and dried. Our filter bolts, for the most part, good enough. Now, of course, they always say, use some clean oil to lube the O-ring. Yeah, well, that's pretty damn clean, and it's going to be getting right on it right when I put it up there. So, grab you some fluid, lube up that O-ring real good. You wouldn't want it to tear. And remember, our long one goes in the back. Double check your bore, make sure it's clean. This is your last chance too. And just kind of rock it around, push it up there. It should go up there with no problem at all. Again, long bolt in the back. Now, if you're the kind of person that says, oh, I don't need the torque spec, tight is tight, this is not the area to say that. And the reason is because these bolts go through your valve body. Your valve body is full of accumulators, and pistons, and solenoids, and valves. And you cannot afford to warp that very precisely machined and very delicate aluminum valve body. So if there was ever a time you went out and bought a torque wrench for a job, it's when you're torquing down anything that goes into a valve body. The torque on all three of these bolts is 97 inch-pounds according to the service manual. And that's exactly what we're going to go to. No more, no less. Because if you want to cause a shifting problem, screw around and find out. Right there. Whew, making a mess down there. Go. 97 inch-pounds. There we go. Gave me the red light, didn't beep. Just wasn't quite there. That's why you'll hear transmission shop guys say never, ever, 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 when going back together anyway, use any type of impact device. That's why you'll still see them use speed wrenches. You don't see many people using speed wrenches anymore. Most people are using electric impacts and stuff. But in a transmission shop, you'll still use them using speed wrenches. Because when they put something together, it's their habit, and it's a good habit to have, to never use a power tool going back together. It gets ran down by hand or by a speed wrench, and then torqued to spec. Never, ever with power tools. Alright, so one last time. You want to clean up your gasket surface. This new machining on transmissions nowadays, they clean up so easy because it's such a mirror-like finish on the transmission gasket surface. Just get a good wipe down, get all the crud off of it. It's not wanting to come off. Don't be grabbing brake cleaner and spraying it down in there. Brake cleaner swells rubber, and there's a bunch of rubber in here you don't want to swell. So if you're having something that's not wanting to come off, reach up here on this valve body, grab you some transmission fluid, and clean that off. And it works, like I said, because this gasket surface is so well machined. It's like a mirror. A little bit of transmission fluid does a great job just cleaning that up. You didn't put any foreign crap in there that can cause a problem. We've got our magnet back in place. Go ahead and get your bolt holes lined up and make it nice and easy. Grab your 2 bolts. Just like they say at the brothel, find your favorite hole and stick it in there. Make sure that your gasket is lined up when it goes back in there. Now that's held up there for you. It's still hanging down. Just make sure that the gasket's inside each hole as it goes back together. This is super simple, guys. It's a super easy truck to maintain. On the 250s, they're great too. On the E-350s, they're awesome. When I do a transmission fluid job on a E-350, it makes me hate the transit so much. You put it on the lift, you drive in, you drop the damn pan, you change it, and you go back on. Right now on the transit, I'd be somewhere around disconnecting the steering column and the power steering line so I can drop the entire front carriage. I'm gonna miss these things when they stop making them and they go to only transit cutaways. I'm really gonna lament that day. I love the E-350s. They're not the prettiest. They're not the most modern. Although they did just get a new engine. They've got the 7.3 now. But I know that Ford's plan is to one day stop making these things and phase them out entirely, and it's sad. It makes me sad because they're a great truck. They've served faithfully for several years. They commonly go to 300,000 miles without complaint. I think with the new 7.3s, that's a really good engine. I think you're going to see some very old E-350s long after they stop making them. But I'll get off the soapbox. Alright, so we're just going to hold it up there. All our bolts are holding the gasket, so it can't move now. We're just going to hold it up there and run in a couple just till they touch. Not tight. Just holding it up there. And now we go around and run them all up. There we go. Going a crisscross pattern. Somewhat crisscross, doesn't have to be perfect, it's just a transmission man. It's easy to lose track of it when you're looking under and around it. I just go a lap around it to make sure that I hit them all. Love this wrench, by the way. Had it for a few months now, and I love how quick it is. A lot of electronic torque wrenches, you torque and then you have to like let it re-zero before you can go again. If you try to go bam, bam, bam like that, it'll like give you an error code and beep at you. This thing you saw, it's just like a mechanical torque wrench almost. And the batteries lasted a long time on it. After that's all it's left to do is I'd put in about 6 quarts, start it, let it run for a little bit, get it up to operating temp, slowly keep adding oil until you get oil on the tip of the dipstick, get it about halfway up. See here, about halfway up the area, like to the sea of check hot. Go for a drive, get it up to operating temp, and once it's good and hot, then take it up to the center of your hash marks. Hope you guys like that one. See you later.